Hello, my name is Elaine Gordon, and today I have the pleasure of interviewing the Honorable Barbara Coppeto. It is April 18th, 2005. It's a beautiful sunny Monday afternoon, and I'm conducting this interview as part of the Connecticut Bar Foundation's James W. Cooper Fellows Oral History of Connecticut Women in the Legal Profession project. The project is sponsored by the Connecticut Bar Foundation. And I think without further ado, we'll get on to our interview. Good afternoon, Barbara.
Good afternoon, Elaine.
Let's start off with the simplest of things, put you at ease. Could you state your name and your place of birth and date of birth for the record, please?
Date of birth is a tough one.
Well, you can skip that if you want.
Okay, my name is Barbara A. Coppeto. I was born in Waterbury, Connecticut on September 26, 1933.
That was very brave of you.
I thought so.
Maybe if we start with a little bit of information about where you came from,
Sure.
That will make the rest of it as interesting as I know that it is.
Okay.
So you were born in Waterbury,
Right.
and tell me a little bit about what Waterbury was like when you were a kid.
Well, Waterbury, we lived in a middle-class neighborhood when I was growing up, and we didn't have 84 or all the other big highways that now crisscross it. And when I go to Waterbury today, I don't recognize the town. I mean, you could walk down from my house, you could walk down to the center of town without any problems, and of course, we only had one car in the family, and buses were not a problem. So you could play outside, ride my bike all around, but there are a lot of things that are a little different in Waterbury today.
Did you grow up in one of those neighborhoods where everybody knew who you were and
Yeah.
they would tell on you?
Yeah, that's right. And we knew everybody. All the neighbors knew us, and we knew all of the neighbors. And some of my classmates lived across the street from me. And if anything happened, they would be sure to be on the phone calling.
Can you tell me a little bit about your parents?
Yes. My father was a practicing lawyer in Waterbury. He had a very active practice. He did a lot of criminal work. And my mother was a stay-at-home mom. It was just my sister and I were the only two children. So, and I spent a lot of time at my father's office because I guess I was kind of a handful for my mother. So in order to get rid of me, she'd put me on the bus and ship me down to my father's office, where I used to plant his typewriters and his machines, and he always claimed I broke them.
Did you break them?
No, of course not.
Was that your sister who broke them?
No, she was very quiet.
So they didn't send your sister down to the
No,
office?
not at all, not at all. She was a model child.
Is she your older or your younger
sister? Yeah.
So you were the trouble in the family?
I was the troublemaker in the family, the devil.
So, did your dad practice by himself?
He did practice by himself, but my father was very good with new lawyers that came in. He would take them in and sort of mentor them. And he always had another lawyer working with him, but he was the lawyer. He was the law firm. He was it.
Were you curious at all about what he was doing while you were playing with the typewriters?
Yeah, I was curious to a certain extent, and I always met a lot of his colleagues, and I met a lot of his clients. As a matter of fact, one of his clients taught me how to drive. The fellow was out of a job, so my father put him to work, and when I was, I guess, about 16, I think was the age, this fellow would take me out every afternoon, and I knew all the back roads of Waterbury because that's where I learned how to drive. And then he had another client would come up and do a lot of yard work in our house. So it was always interesting with what my father did. And of course, I could hear him discussing his cases with his secretary, with somebody else there.
Do you think that that's what sparked your interest?
Probably it did spark my interest because I was interested in the law, having spent a lot of time down there. And then, of course, sometimes in the summer, there was a couple of lawyers in that same building who were, of course, at that time, they didn't have these big law firms as they do today, in Waterbury anyhow. They were mostly all single practitioners. So when a lawyer would go away, they'd pay me a couple of dollars to come in every day and answer the telephone and check the mail. So I did that for a couple of summers, for a week or so. When I was in high school, yeah, for a week or so at a time, yeah.
Were there any women practicing law that you knew of?
Not that I knew of, no. Although later on there were two other women who were a lot older than I was that practiced law. But one of them did mostly trust and estates, so I never really saw her in court. And the other woman was Catherine Hutchinson, but I never really saw her much either.
So when you were there kind of hanging out at your dad's office, and you met these colleagues, there was never anybody who was female?
No, there were no
met.
female colleagues that I met, no.
And did your dad ever talk to you about going into the law?
No, he never did. No, they never did. No, it was just understood I'd go to college, though. That was a given. We didn't have anything to say about it. We were going to go to college, but they never mentioned that, no.
What kind of careers were people going into if they went to college? What was happening to them after college?
Well, most of them got married, or the only other things were nursing and teaching and secretarial work. My mother was a secretary before she got married at Chase's. But, and of course, I'm sure some went on to medical school, and there must have been some that went on to law school, but not too many into those professions. But basically, it was teaching school and nursing.
So you went to high school in Waterbury,
Yes, right.
Did you go to a Catholic high school?
Yes, Catholic high school, yeah.
And was it an all-girls school?
All-girls school, right.
Did the girls talk about their future or what they might be thinking about doing? Or
Yeah, they talked about it, but mostly in our senior year where we were going to go to school, and that was kind of an exciting time, you know, because my parents were taking me around and the other girls were being taken around too, and who was applying for a scholarship and things of that nature, where you're going to go.
But were there conversations back then, like I want to grow up to become a this or that, doctor or
No,
lawyer?
No, it's funny, nobody ever went into that. No one ever did. In my class, most of my colleagues, most of my friends went into nursing. There must have been about 10 went into nursing from my class.
And did they go to college or to
No,
part of nursing
at that
school?
time they went to it was a 3-year nursing school that you could go to.
Was that at St. Mary's?
St. Mary's.
Have
They
a
went to
nursing school?
St. Mary's used to have a nursing school, as did Waterbury Hospital. But most of my friends went to the St. Mary's School of Nursing for 3 years.
So you didn't really have any role models about becoming a lawyer?
No, not really, other than my dad, I suppose.
And you did you work at anything else other than hanging out at the
No,
law office?
No, I didn't. No, I was
So
very
you really
fortunate.
were doing little errands and
That's
things like
right.
that for the other lawyers?
That's right.
and
That's
what
right.
did you do over your summers?
Well, not too much. I did a lot of reading, and we usually went away for the summer. So I was pretty lucky I didn't have to work. Although one time my father got me a job at Scoville Manufacturing. My friend Ann O'Neill Potter and I, everyone else had a job, so we wanted to work also. But there were just no jobs around, and so my father knew someone at the Scoville Manufacturing Company, so he got Ann and I a job making the tops of zippers. So we worked for a whole week, and then, wouldn't you know, Scoville's went on strike.
Oh, no.
Went on strike for the rest of the summer. So that was the end of our summer job. And then another summer, my father put me into a post-junior college, which to take typing and shorthand. He thought that was very important, no matter what I was going to do, to be able to type and to take a little shorthand. Because, again, in those days, they didn't have all the computers that they have now, and shorthand was very important for a girl.
Did your mother agree with you that you should take shorthand and typing?
Oh, yeah, she thought it was a good idea. Yeah, she thought it was a good idea. It was mostly my father, though, that put us in there.
Just in case.
Just in case.
You always be able to make the
That's
rent
right.
if you had
That's
to,
right.
right?
That's right, exactly.
So when it came time for college, how did you go about figuring out where you might want to go?
Well, I really looked at locations, and I thought Washington would be a great place to go to school in. I don't know, I wasn't necessarily interested in politics, but it just seemed to me that Washington had a lot of glamour to it. I wasn't interested in New York. So I decided I wanted to go down there. So my parents took me down for a weekend and took me to the college there, and I saw it and I liked it. And I applied there, and I was accepted, and that's how I ended up there.
Now, what kind of student were you in high school? Did you graduate at the top of your class?
Probably the top 15, yeah.
Were you one of those kids who could get lost in a book? You said you read a lot
Yeah,
over the summers.
Yeah, I could read, yeah. Because in college, as a matter of fact, I ended up being a political science and a history minor, so there was a lot of reading to do. And I wanted to take an English literature course in 1 year. I think it was in my sophomore or junior year. But they had an extensive reading list. And you had to read these books in order to participate in the class and so forth. And the only way I could do that was if I read the books in advance. So that one summer, I got the reading list, and I went to the library, and I got all the books, and I read them all during the course of the summer and took notes on them. So then I could take the course, and I had already read them, so it was no problem with all the other work that I had. Because, you know, I took 15 hours worth. I took 5 or 6 courses. Today, I know when my nieces went to school, they took like 3 or 4 courses. They thought they were burdened.
You think it was a little more rigorous back
I
when?
think so. I think so. At least for me it was.
So what year was it that you went off to college?
1951.
And you went to where in Washington?
Trinity College in Washington. It's on Michigan Avenue.
And was that a co-ed school?
No, it was all girls also.
So you went to a girls' high school and a girls' college.
And a girls' grammar school.
And a girls' grammar school.
That's right.
Do you think that had any effect on who you became or the type of woman you grew into?
I don't really think so. I can't really.
Of course, you never went to school with the boys, so you don't know.
No, I don't know, not until I got to law school.
Well, it's interesting because nowadays they say that one of the things they've learned studying classrooms is that the boys tend to monopolize
Yeah.
and take over, and the girls start falling behind.
Well, see, I don't know because I don't have that experience in anything, yeah. Although, well, I must remember, though, in grammar school, we had 2 boys in our class.
Really?
I don't know how they got in there. There were like 25 girls and 2 boys. I don't know why these parents sent the 2 boys along with all the girls. They were sissies, you know, as far as we were concerned. They didn't take over the class, I assure you.
And would you think the nuns were an influence on you?
Oh, definitely, definitely. I had good study habits and good work habits and good discipline as a result of the nuns, I think.
And that probably made college a little bit easier for you.
Made college a little bit easier, and it made law school a lot easier.
Now, did you have a lay faculty at college, or did you have?
No, it was, I'm trying to think. We had mostly lay people, mostly lay people, I think, in my courses. But, of course, the theology and the philosophy, we had priests and nuns. And for some of the history courses, we had some nuns, and the chemistry woman was a nun also.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So those were some people who maybe the rest of us may never have been exposed to. I mean,
Probably
back
not.
then in
Probably
college,
not,
people
yeah.
teaching at the college level.
Yeah, they were nuns and priests teaching at the college level.
Yeah. And so tell me about Washington when you were there.
Well, Washington was really, to me, it was a very exciting place. In my second year, a group of us all decided to live on the 5th floor. Of course, my parents were upset because there was no elevators. You had to walk up to the 5th floor. But we could look out our bathroom window and look out and see the Capitol all lit up. And every night I used to go in there and say, well, I got to remember this site because it'll be a long time before I'm back here. And so I enjoyed that. And then I joined the Connecticut Club in Washington, which was a lot of people from Connecticut, and they all would meet like once every couple of months. But of course, it was difficult to get out at night from college. You know, back there we had to sign in and out, and you could only stay out until like 10 o'clock. You know, you couldn't.
You had hours.
We had definite hours, so we had definite curfews. But I enjoyed Washington because then taking political science and history, I could go up to the Hill, hear a lot of the arguments and debates and some of the hearings. You know, so to me that was very exciting.
So you took advantage of that.
Absolutely, I did, yeah, and tried to do a little. Well, of course, the school your first year they made you go out and check, you know, and go to see all the monuments and the things of importance there in Washington. So we did that too.
And so was this very different than being in Waterbury?
Oh, absolutely, very different. Yeah, you're away from home, making new friends. You're on your own. You know, you have your allowance, and it was quite different. Yeah, but I enjoyed college. Yeah, I enjoyed Washington.
Was it fun being away
Yeah,
from
it was. Yeah, I
that
enjoyed
neighborhood
it.
where
Yeah.
everybody?
Nobody knew you.
We won't ask about why that might have been important.
Right.
So you said that you majored in
Political science and history.
Did you do that with an eye to going to law school?
No, I didn't. I took political science because we had a very excellent political science teacher, Dr. Flugel, who's now deceased, and she was a fascinating woman. She taught at the Brookings Institute and was out at San Francisco when they were starting the UN. She knew all kinds of people. She was quite a name dropper, you know, but she knew these people from being politically involved. And she was absolutely fascinating. So she was really sort of a push to me I think, to take all her courses, which I did do. And of course, she only taught political science courses. Then there were nuns and other people teaching the other history courses that we took.
So at what point did you and your friends start talking about what you might be doing with the rest of your lives?
Well, probably not till we were seniors. So we got worried about, you know, the good life was now about to be over. What were we going to do? And many of my friends were going to teach, and as a matter of fact, I practice taught in Washington. One of the schools there wanted to have somebody come in like one afternoon, and I think for one semester, once a week I went down and I did social studies with one of the groups down there. It was one of the Catholic schools, so they took you on. And then many of my friends took the civil service exam, and I don't remember if I took the civil service exam or not.
What were they taking you for? To what end?
Well, because you had to be a certain number in the civil service, and then you could apply for different jobs in the government, like in the budget, or in the Department of Agriculture, or in the Treasury Department, or in the Justice Department, doing one thing or another. So you had to take a civil service exam, And depending on what grade you were, that would be the level at which you could enter into
I
a
see.
position. Yeah.
So you don't remember whether
I
you
don't
took
remember
that?
I took that or not. No, that awful.
How did law school get onto your plate?
Well, I was thinking about what I wanted to do. I enjoyed teaching, but I enjoyed going to school, so I thought, let me take the law bars and see how I make out. So I took the law exams, and of course my father was a graduate of the University of Virginia in Charlottesville. And that's all we ever heard was about Charlottesville, how great it was and how lovely it was. And I think we had gone down there for a weekend or something when one of the law school reunions my father went to. And so I decided to apply there and try to go into law school because I wasn't sure what I wanted to do at that point.
Was your father ecstatic?
Oh, he was. He was very thrilled that one, that I took the law bar exam, 2, that I passed it, and 3, that I got admitted to Virginia. He was thrilled.
At this stage, had he been encouraging you of this idea of yours?
Not really. You know, my parents literally left it up to myself to what I was going to do. I didn't get any pressure from them one way or the other.
Did you have any other friends who were doing the same thing, going to law school?
None whatsoever. I was the only one. I was the only one in the whole class that graduated that applied to a law school.
Wow.
Yeah, my whole class. And there were bright students in my class. I mean, many of the gals went on to get PhDs or masters or MBAs or whatever. Many got married, and many just became teachers, social workers and whatnot.
So, did you apply anyplace else besides University of Virginia?
No, I didn't.
Did you have any idea of how elite a school it was
No,
when
I
you
didn't.
applied?
I did not. I probably wouldn't be admitted today, that's for sure.
It would have been a little bit more intimidating.
That's right, that's
You just
right.
thought of it as dad's school.
That's right, dad's school. I think I'll try that and see what happens. And I got in, yeah.
And let's see, okay, so now you're in Charlottesville. Very different than Waterbury,
Oh, yeah.
wasn't it? And very
Very,
different
very.
than Washington.
Yeah, that's
in
right.
what way?
Well, first of all, I was in a dorm with all gals who were not in the law school, that's for sure, because there was only one other girl in the law school besides myself. And they were all in graduate school or some were in medical school. And that was quite different. And then it was different being in school itself because they were all men. And that was a new experience for me to be with all these men. And just one other girl and myself, you know. And of course, we were a little bit of an oddity. They always had to watch and see what we were doing.
I was going to ask you whether you felt like the odd duck.
Yeah, we really did feel like odd ducks, just the 2 gals, going to classes. And then the room that they had, of course, the men had this nice lounge where they could relax and everything. And we had this basement place. It was an old black couch and a ladies' room that was really needed to be refurbished. And that's where we could hang out if we wanted to.
It was nice of them to give you any place,
we
right?
were lucky. We were lucky to have a ladies' room there because there were no female professors there. They're all male teachers.
I wonder if they had to kind of find this bathroom and little lounge area when they accepted you.
Well, no, not when they accepted me because there was one gal ahead of me and there was another gal in the 3rd year class.
Oh.
So there were some women there. I wasn't the first woman in the law school. And there were, I believe, there had been some women graduates. As a matter of fact, when we looked at my father's old picture, he was a class of 1922. There was a woman in his class.
Really, in 1922?
In 1922, but he couldn't remember her, and he didn't know what happened to her. So I guess she made some impression on the students there, because he couldn't recall her at all.
Did you, first of all, how many men were there in your class?
There must have been about 200.
So there are 200 men and you
That's right, and one other gal.
in your class?
Yes.
So there were 202.
202 people, 200 men.
And what was that like? I mean, did you feel free to speak? I mean, did you participate? Did you get called on?
Well, we got called on. I didn't really feel that I was going to raise my hand a lot, till I found out what was going on, so to speak. But most of the lectures, of course, they divided up the first-year class into sections, depending on the alphabet, A to M and M to Z. And so there were very huge groups. There were 100 in each class. And most of the classes, as I recall, it was mostly lecture. But if you were called on, the professor would call on you, and he had your name in the book there, and sometimes they did it alphabetically. And of course, you had to read the cases and brief them, and they would call on you to do that. So I was called on to do that. That was okay with me.
Did you get called on, do you think, disproportionately? Did you feel any attention because you were
Not at all.
female?
Not at all. Not at all. But when I was called on, I could feel all eyes looking at me, and I'm sure I must have turned green, red, everybody's looking to see. And I remember after about a month, one fellow says to me, "When are you going home?" He says, "You've been here a long time." I said, "I've got news for you. I'm going to school."
Did he think you were visiting?
He thought I was visiting. Well, he wondered why I was there so long.
Did you? How were they as students? Did you have study groups with the guys, or?
Yes, we did have. We did not so much the first year, but the second and third year we had some study groups. So we did do that. But most of the men in my class were all veterans from the war, so they were a little bit older and more mature, and so they were readily acceptable to having women in their class. And of course, the Southern boys never quite got used to gals. Some of them really never even spoke to me. They were not terribly friendly. But there was a large percentage of fellows from the North, so that it was no problem. And we, in our second and third year, we did have some study groups.
Did you have to dress for class? Did the boys have to wear jackets?
The boys had to wear.
I guess we should stop calling them boys. The men.
The men had to wear coats and ties to class every day. And, I never wore slacks. I mean, the slacks were not in at that time in the 50s. But we always, Gal and I, we always got dressed up. And then she flunked out the first year.
Oh, no.
Yeah, she left. She left at I think at the semester. So she left. So
Did anybody say anything about that?
No. She was a nice gal, but they used to post the grades, and she didn't do well, and so she just never came back.
So that left just you?
Just me.
Yeah. And you said you were living with other women who were graduate students of one sort or another.
Right.
And so were you able to make friends with any? You all had different schedules.
Oh yeah, we all had different schedules, and we had different interests. So it was difficult to make a lot of friends because you're all going at different times. And of course, I did talk with the gals. It was interesting in the medical school, and they had a lot of harassment in the gals in the medical school, because they all used to ask me, how do you get along with the boys? Do they do anything? The men. I said, no, I don't have any problems at all. They're all very polite, very nice. And said, boy, they had a lot of problems. I thought that was interesting.
Oh, I think that is interesting. I wonder what would account for that.
I don't know. Because then after my first year, I made friends with the gal who was a year ahead of me, and we rented a house together, she and two other gals. So the four of us rented a home, so I was out of the dorm at that point.
And that probably made it a little bit easier in terms of feeling like you had at least a little group of friends or something.
Right. We had our own group then. Yeah.
Were the guys friendly?
Oh, yes, very friendly. Yeah, very friendly. I became an honorary member of one of the fraternities.
Oh, what fraternity was that?
I knew you were going to ask me, but I can't remember. I don't know if it was Phi Delta Phi or one of them.
Did they have a secret handshake?
Yeah, no, we didn't have a secret handshake. Went to all their parties.
Did you enjoy law school?
I did, very much, yeah. It's a lot of work, but I enjoyed it.
And what is it that you liked about it?
Well, of course, I liked the school atmosphere. I liked the location, and I liked the camaraderie that was there in the law school. It was just a very pleasant time.
Had your father given you any advice about how to approach law school?
No, he went down and he bought me all the books, though. He bought me a book on equity. He said I had to have a book on equity. I don't know why. We never had that course. And it was interesting. He told me that I should take a course in domestic relations, which is what they called family. And it just so happened that I never could fit it in. So the best I could do was to audit family relations. And then it's interesting in life what happens. I ended up doing mostly family.
Isn't that interesting?
Yes, it was. And I never took that course, but I audited it.
No, why did your dad tell you to do that? Did he think that would be a good opportunity for you back in practice?
He thought that was a good thing for a woman to be able to have that background in practice in family and domestic relations.
Oh,
so I audited the class.
That's funny.
Yes.
The class that you didn't take
That's what I ended
being the focus of your
right. And the class that I loved, taxes and what was the other one, labor, never got into that in my practice.
Did you participate in any activities at law school? Would you moot court or?
No, I think I did do moot court 1 year, and then I participated in the Law Weekly, which was the newspaper, and we had to write an article every week. We had to change desks every week. One week you wrote an article, 1 week you wrote headlines, 1 week you edited. So I did that.
So the law school had its own newspaper?
Yes, right, the Law School Weekly.
That must have been very interesting because you don't think of law schools as publishing those types of things
right, we had
today.
our own newspaper, yeah.
And so that was another source of friends. I'm sure everybody was male on the newspaper.
Yes, everybody was male, yeah.
Did they tease you at all?
No, not at all.
They didn't want you to write the advice column?
No. I think I wrote one article, a feature on, I think it was women in petticoats. I had to do some research on that, about women in the law, going way back, of course, to pick them all up.
And did you find women in...
Yes, I did find quite a few, more than you would think.
Really? And did they must have studied by reading with somebody?
I think, right, in those days they did. They had to read with someone and didn't necessarily have to go to a law school. Yeah, it was very interesting.
Yeah, interesting
Yeah.
that anybody took them on.
That's right.
'Cause, you know,
That's right.
We feel, people in my generation feel that, you know, we've kind of struggled, but you think there weren't any
There weren't-
opportunities,
well,
but
there
people
were.
found them.
That's right. That's right. It was interesting that there were that women in law. I was amazed myself when I did the research. Don't ask me for any of the names now. I'm
No,
going
I
back
won't.
45 years.
I won't. That's not fair. I wouldn't do that. So you have pretty fond memories of law school.
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Have you ever gone to any of the reunions?
Oh, yes, all the time. Yeah.
Do you still
Every
do
5
that?
years, yep. They went down for the 45th, and the group that I sort of hung around with, they all came. So it was great. It was really great. Yeah.
That must be fun.
Yeah, it is. It is fun. It's very pleasant. The only thing is you can't ask, how's your wife? Because you don't know who's died, who's divorced,
Right.
who's living with somebody else. But my group that I was friendly with, you know, our clique, so to speak, they all come for a reunion, so it's really great.
And so you wound up you did make friends with some of the guys.
Oh, yeah.
And,
Oh, yes.
And
Oh, yes. Well, I told you they made me an honorary member of one of their
Yeah.
fraternities, so
Yeah.
they liked me.
why do you think that was, Barbara?
I don't know.
So, did you? Were you a good student in law school?
I got gentlemen's grades, what they call
See, I
gentlemen's
asked
grades.
you that question
Right,
because I wanted to
right,
hear that phrase,
right.
gentlemen's grades.
Gentlemen's grades.
And what are gentlemen's grades?
2.5.
I just love the fact that at the University of Virginia they call those
Gentlemen's grades. That's right. Gentlemen's grades. That's what I got.
And it was funny because when we talked earlier and you said you got gentlemen's
Yeah.
grades, the phrase came tripping off your tongue. It
Right.
didn't even seem strange,
That's right.
right?
No. I mean, that's what it was. Gentlemen's grades. That's what we called it.
So were you also going back to Washington at weekends and things
Well,
like
it
that?
was interesting. Of course, one of the reasons why I thought I'd like to go to Charlottesville to school was because I had a lot of friends in Washington. I thought, oh, it would be great. I'll be close. I'll be able to go back. But, you know, I only went up to Washington once, and it just wasn't the same anymore because my friends were all busy working. They were making all new friends, doing other
Yeah.
things. So, and actually, I was too busy myself in law school. I had a lot of reading and
Yeah.
briefing and a lot of things to do. So I only went back, I think, once for a weekend. I didn't go back.
Now, did you work over the summers or when you were in law school? Did you ever work in a law office?
No, I never did. After my first year, I wanted to take some extra courses that I couldn't fit in. So I spent the summer in Charlottesville, and I took out a membership at the Fry Springs Country Club. I'll never forget it because they had a big pool. And I took 2 courses that I wouldn't be able to fit in the regular course, so I did that. And then the other summer, another girl had transferred over to the law school. She and I went to Europe for 8 weeks in the summer.
Oh, how
So I
wonderful.
was very lucky. I was very fortunate. Yeah.
Oh, that was
Yeah.
nice because after that it all changed.
That's
didn't
right.
it?
That's right. It certainly did.
So during your last year of law school, you must have been trying to figure out now
What I'm going to do.
what you're going
right.
to do for a career, right?
Right. I interviewed with a lot of the people that came down, a lot of the big companies and the big law firms, but, you know, they were interested, first of all, you had in law review people, and I was not law review. And I don't think that too many of them were thrilled with interviewing a woman. But I went to the interviews anyhow, just to get the experience of interviewing and see what would come of it. Nothing came of it.
How could you tell they weren't that thrilled?
Well, you just get that feeling, you know. They'd ask you a few questions, and that was about it. Well, thank you. You know, don't call us. We'll call you. That type of thing. So I knew. Yeah.
And so, did you figure you'd come back to Connecticut?
Yes, I definitely came back to Connecticut because in between graduation, I had to start the bar review courses. And I had to interrupt the bar review courses, go back down to Charlottesville to the graduation, and then come back up. So there wasn't any question I was going to take the bar review course, take the Connecticut bar. I would have taken the Virginia bar, and I sometimes regret it. But in order to take the Virginia bar, you had to take a course called Virginia Procedure, which was a 5-hour course. So it was a very heavy course, which I never took. And I don't think that you could pass a bar without having that Virginia procedure, not like Connecticut,
Right.
where it didn't really, you needed some procedure, but you didn't need that much as you would have needed in Virginia.
It's a good thing because back in those days, Connecticut procedure was medieval. You
That's
still
right.
had pleadings and
That's
traverse
right.
and
That's
things
right.
like that.
Waive the tort and sue and assumpsit. Remember that? Didn't understand that for the longest time.
It's like
but
ready, nice. I
That's
what is
right.
all those
That's
things?
right. That's right.
So, did you ever consider, or did your father consider that you would be coming back and working with him?
Oh, I'm sure my father thought I would come back and work with him. But he also felt that for the first year, I should get experience someplace else. So he was talking with another colleague of his who happened to be in Derby. And I guess my father, I don't know what they were talking about, but the colleague said, well, send her down to me for a year and I'll give her some good experience. So I said, fine. So down I went to Derby.
Well, before we get too
Yes.
far into it, because I think this is one of the
Yeah.
most interesting things about your career, is let's set the scene a little bit. What
Yeah.
was Derby like? Now, what year are we?
Oh, we're in 58,
And what was
1958.
Derby like?
Well, Derby was a manufacturing town.
It's a
very
small town.
Very small town. You had the Farrell Corporation there. You had one little main street. You had a bank, and it was a very small manufacturing town.
And for the people who'll be seeing this in the future, it was in the Valley,
In the
which
Valley,
is
that's right.
Ansonia, Derby, and Seymour,
Seymour
right?
and Shelton. Well, I don't know if they consider Shelton part of the Valley or not. Shelton was across the bridge.
But it was a heavy working blue-collar
Blue-collar area. That's
small
right.
town.
That's right.
Because I
Very
remember
small.
when I moved to Connecticut, and in the 70s, I remember thinking that the Valley
Right.
looked like it was stuck in the 50s. So I
Exactly.
can't even imagine what it looked like in the 50s.
That's what it looked like, the same way it looked like in the 70s. It's different now, of course, but
Right.
but at that time there was nothing. There was, as I say, it was the American Brass, Farrell's, and there was another big corporation. So they're all labor workers and middle-class people.
So this is not the type of town that we would think of as being in the avant-garde, right?
Oh, yeah, no, definitely not.
or you know, you would think it might not. Maybe we're wrong. We're wrong, I know, but
Yeah.
I would not have thought that it was going to be a hospitable place for a woman to come and practice law.
Well, it was interesting. I practiced law with Harold Yudkin, who was my mentor, and he had an excellent reputation in the Valley, and he was a very good lawyer, and if you wanted something done, he was the lawyer to go to, so he had a very active practice. I suppose I was something of a curiosity, but Harold had me come right in his office when he was interviewing clients, and then he would send me out to take pictures or interview clients or interview witnesses. And I think because I was such an oddity that they were interested in, didn't bother them that I was a woman handling part of their case. And before long, I fit right in, did some divorce cases, did personal injury cases, did a few trials.
Was Harold a good friend of your dad's?
I think he was really just a colleague. In other
And so
words,
I think-
socially, they never got together or anything like that.
It's very interesting that he didn't think twice.
No, he didn't. Harold did not. Didn't think twice about it. He was a very gentleman, person of a lot of foresight. And he also had an idea and a dream of having a shopping center in Derby. And it took him years, but he finally got a shopping center. And this is before the Connecticut Post and all these other places sprung up.
That's right.
So he was a person of a lot of foresight. As a matter of fact, when he came out of the war, he was in the service, and when the war was over, he came out of the war and he bought up, I don't know how he got the money together, but he bought up about 100 acres of land off of Route 34. And he started building homes because he knew, he had the foresight to see that fellows coming home from the war would want to have homes. And there were no homes in that area. And he started the Yudkin development. And there's over 1,000 homes there today. And he had the foresight to do that. He was the first builder there. He got a builder and put up all these homes and sold them. He was really something.
And he was really important to your career, wasn't he?
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah,
Because he
and-
took me in, and he didn't just take me in and shove me to the side and send me to the library and do a lot of research and a lot of writing. I mean, I was out there right in the thick of things with clients, interviewing witnesses, going to court, going to short calendar, doing all those things.
Right, and it was, well, there was no issue for him.
No,
right?
there was none, absolutely none.
So how did your practice evolve? What kind of things were you doing at first?
Well, I did, Derby being such a small town, you did a little bit of everything. You did some trusts and estates, some wills, did personal injury, did domestic divorce cases. I did a little criminal work because we had the city courts then, and we had the JP courts, the night courts, had the circuit court, the appellate, the Court of Common Pleas, and the Superior Court. Did some corporations, some people would incorporate
Right.
some businesses and would do their minutes and things of that nature. So you did everything in a small town like that. Didn't really specialize, as many of them do today when they come out.
Is there anything that you liked doing more than other?
No, I enjoyed all of it. I enjoyed everything that I was doing.
You went to court a lot.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
And how did
Every
you
week,
find-
short calendar.
Yeah, how did you find your reception among The lawyers and the judges.
Well, the judges sort of looked at me a little, raised eyebrows, a little amused, a little benevolent. The lawyers were okay. They would come over and say, "Oh, who are you?" And so forth, and were pleasant to me. When I went to New Haven, I was the only woman there in the short calendar. But of course, having been to law school, being the only woman there, it didn't faze me that I was the only woman at the bar.
So that turned out to be good
Yes,
training.
That's
you got
right.
used to
Exactly.
this.
Exactly. Got used to being the only woman around.
It's not so bad, I guess,
Yeah.
right?
No, it's very pleasant, very nice. I enjoyed it. Still enjoy it.
Now, you said for a minute that just a minute ago, you were when you went to New Haven, you were the only one around, but in the Valley, or in other places, there were other women, right?
Oh, no, not in law. No.
Even the next year when Joanne showed
Oh,
up?
when Joanne came, then of course there were two women. And of course she was a hometown gal, though. She was born and brought up in Ansonia, the Valley. So she knew a lot of people.
Right, just for the tape, we're talking about Joanne Cullowitz.
Joanne Cullowitz, that's right. I'm sorry, I didn't forgot that, yes. And my office took her on because they were very pleased with me and thought I worked out well. And Joanne Cullowitz was law review down at George Washington. And I think my other partner saw her name in the paper, her picture, and so we called her up and offered her a job. Because, in those days, it was a little difficult to get into a big firm and to get someone to take you on. So she came aboard after the first year, but she was only the second woman there. And then about 3 or 4 years later, I think Pat Kaplan came with legal aid.
Right.
So, and they had a legal aid office in Derby, and she came.
That was actually a lot later.
Was it a lot later?
That was into the 70s, I think.
Well, because it was funny.
See, time just flies.
We said to Pat Kaplan, I called her up, and Joanne called her up, and she said, "Well, I want you to meet the other women lawyers in the Valley, have lunch with us." So Pat said, "Oh, I'd love to." So we went to Weatherby's for lunch. It was just the three of us.
She thought she was going to a bar meeting.
She thought she was going to a bar meeting. You have to remind Pat of that story, yeah. So we had a nice lunch together. I guess it was in the 70s. I don't remember now.
And Joanne and you forged a friendship.
Yes, we did.
And we'll come back to her a little
Okay.
bit later because
Okay.
she holds a really formidable spot in the history of Connecticut women in
Absolutely.
the legal profession.
Absolutely.
So we'll come back to that in just a minute. And I guess we should just say that Joanne unfortunately died just a few years ago.
1999.
Way
yeah.
too
Right too soon. Right.
Way too soon. Way too soon. So did you you liked what you were doing?
Yes.
And did your father call you up after that first year and say,
Well,
come on up to Waterbury?
Well, I was still living at home. Don't forget.
Oh, you were?
Those days, the gals didn't move out until you got married, so I was still living at home. And I said to him after a year, I said, well, I said, Harold has asked me to stay on for another year, and I said, I think I'm probably going to do that. My father was a tough person to get along with. I mean, I suppose we could have managed, but we'd probably be at ends a lot of the times, and so I liked what I was doing, and it worked out well, so I decided to stay. I'm sure he was disappointed. He had an extra office, and my father was great on books. He had a lot of books all over the place. But it worked out better for me, I think, being
Did
down
he
there.
ever express, you never went with your dad?
No, I never did, no.
And did he
I stayed
express
there.
any regret about that?
No, he never said anything to me about it. I'm sure he
And-
did. I'm sure he was a little disappointed, but
Did you talk about your cases at night at the dinner table?
yes, we did. We did talk about what we had and what we didn't do.
And your dad gave you a great piece of advice about going to court.
That's right. For some reason or other, one of the women, when she went to court, always wore a hat. And I don't know why, but my father said to me, now, when you go to court, don't wear a hat. And I don't know what that was all about, but so I never wore, well, of course I didn't wear a hat then, but in those days, women did wear hats a lot. You wore a hat to church, you wore a hat when you went out. But he said, don't wear a hat to church.
To court.
To court, rather. It's okay to church, but not to court.
Right. Is there anything about the beginning, a client or anything that sticks out in your mind as being something that either gave you a boost or you knew that you were feeling comfortable doing this, or?
Well, a lot of my clients that I had after the case was over, they would come in and bring me a plant, or bring me some flowers, or send me a note, and I was very gratified by that. I thought that was very nice of them to do that.
It was nice.
Yeah,
It's
it
not that
was.
often.
That's right.
That you get thanked.
Exactly. So I thought that meant that I was sort of doing some good for somebody.
And did you start getting repeat clients?
Oh yes, all the time, yeah.
So you became another fixture in the office.
In the office, I did, right.
In that area.
That's right. Yeah.
It was just normal to have.
It was very normal. It was just a run-of-the-mill thing. And then, of course, I did a lot of speaking engagements. A lot of the women's groups or the mixed groups are always looking for a speaker for their dinner meetings. And so I did quite a bit of that in my first 2 years out. And that was good because it was good public relations. People got to know me, and I got to know them. And it was a little bit good for the business, although Harold Yetkin, my partner, my associate, was the rainmaker of the office.
And were you active in the bar organization?
Yes, I was. I ended up president of the Valley Bar Association, and I joined the Connecticut Bar Association. I joined some of the sections, but I never held any offices or anything like that, but I became active in that.
And that probably helped in terms of your acceptance with the other
Exactly.
members of
That's
the
right.
of the
That's
bar.
right.
And my guess is that Harold
Yeah.
was so well respected that
That's
people must have thought you were something.
That's right, exactly. I kind of went in on his tailcoat.
Yeah. And so would you say he was a mentor to you?
Absolutely, he was a mentor. Absolutely, he was a mentor, yeah. Because I was with him for about 20 years, over 10 years.
What do you think the most important thing you learned from him was?
Well, he always said to me and to Joanne, he said, always act like a lady. No matter where you are, when you're in court, act like a lady. And he said it'll all fall through for you.
And that, in fact, turns out to be pretty good advice.
Absolutely,
right?
good advice, yeah.
And it's not such bad advice to tell the men to act like a gentleman
That's
either,
right,
I suppose,
that's right.
Maybe just being polite goes
Yeah,
a
that's true.
long way. Did you think that there were any advantages or disadvantages to being a woman in practice at that time? Did you?
No, I didn't really feel that at all. I mean, I think if you had the ability, you could do well. I mean, there were, after I was practicing for about 5 or 6 years, then there were other women lawyers that I would run into. There were some in Bridgeport, and I remember Helen Crounce, and she could try a wonderful civil case. I watched her try a case one time. So I don't think there were any advantages or disadvantages. I mean, women were still a novelty at that point,
Right.
And the jurors would always kind of pay special attention to a woman judge, a woman lawyer.
Were you doing jury work?
I did some jury work, yeah, and they always kind of looked at me when I got up to examine a witness or if I was voir diring the jurors, they're kind of pleased to have a woman there for some reason or other.
And probably the advice, Harold's advice about being a lady probably worked very well in front of the juries as well.
Yeah, I'm sure it did, yeah. I wasn't tough or like gangbusters or, rough and didn't use bad language or anything of that nature. But
Yeah.
I thought I was always a perfect lady.
Did you like the trial work?
Yes, I like the trial work, yeah.
And so
It's stressful, though, that was the only thing.
now Joanne didn't stay at the firm as long as you
No,
did, right?
she didn't, no.
And maybe for our interview, we should talk about what Joanne did.
Okay.
Where did Joanne go after a while?
After a while, she went to a firm in Ansonia with Joe Buckley, who's now deceased, and Judge Flynn, who's now on the appellate court.
Right.
She went over there and practiced with them.
And then she was named to the bench.
Then she was named to the bench. She was named to the circuit court.
She was the first woman named to the Connecticut trial bench,
That's right, exactly, yeah. In the 70s, I think it was. She was named by Judge Meskel. And then from there, she went to, of course, then the courts merged, and then she became a member of the Superior Court.
Right. And you and she remained very good friends.
Very good friends throughout her entire life. Yeah.
Right.
We went on trips together and so forth.
And she was instrumental in you getting on deciding to make a try for the bench,
Right, that's right. She was, because she was on the bench at the time, and Ella Grasso was the governor. And Judge Kulowitz called me up and said, that Governor Grasso was looking for some qualified women to appoint to the bench, because there weren't that many. I mean, there was Joanne, and there was probably Billy DuPont, Fran Allen, and one other gal in Danbury. And there was Fitzgerald up in Hartford. But there weren't that many women on the bench at that time. And Governor Grasso was interested in that. So I got the forms and submitted my name and went through all the committees. And apparently Governor Grasso, I was on her list.
And this is 1970,
well,
1980?
Before, let me see, I was appointed in 81, so this would have been 1980 or 1979, 78, by the time I went through the committees and so forth. And then, of course, and I apparently was on her list, but then, unfortunately, Governor Grasso died. So I thought, well, that's the end of that. But Governor Bill O'Neill, who took over from Governor Grasso, decided he would honor her list of appointees. So he appointed me to the bench in August of 1981.
We love that, Governor
Yes,
O'Neill.
I know it. He appointed a lot of people to the bench.
He did, and he appointed a lot of women
That's
to the
right.
bench.
That's right. He did, because a lot after I came on, a lot came on after me. You know.
Yeah. So, what was that process like, going
Yeah, that
before
was
the committees?
well. That was a little scary going through the committee because there were mostly men on the committee, and one of the committees you had to go through was the bar committee. But I had been a member of that bar committee, so I knew all of the gentlemen and all the lawyers on that. So that was an easy one. But the other one, they asked me some pretty tough questions about my tough cases and how many how many witnesses I could examine and things of that nature. But I got through them all, so it was all right. You know, some of those bad things you kind of put aside and you forget them after so many years. At least I do.
So you were appointed to the bench.
August of 1981.
Okay. Well, let's talk, before we get on to
Yes.
your judicial career, did your legal career turn out to be what you expected it might be, or less than that, or more than that? Do you remember what you thought about what it was going to be like and then what it turned out to be?
Well, it turned out to be the way I thought it was going to be. I mean, helping people, which I enjoyed doing, listening to their problems, trying to find out some solution for them, and coming up with something that was acceptable to them, acceptable to everybody else. So I enjoyed doing that. I mean, to me it was a wonderful career, it was a wonderful profession, and I enjoyed every minute of my practice, I really did. And I enjoyed the variety that I had. I mean, some of my friends that I spoke with would be doing just trust and estates, or just tax work, or just labor negotiations, but I was doing everything. And some of my colleagues never went into court. I remember talking to some of the fellas coming back at reunion. They couldn't believe I went to court. I remember this one fellow, he said, I would panic. I could never try a case in court. I said, well, George, there's nothing to it. So I really feel I had the best of all the worlds. I could do some research and still meet with the clients. And some of my friends and colleagues never met their clients. They never met their clients in the larger firms. They never met the clients. Never met them. They couldn't believe that I was talking to clients and doing interviews, going out and taking pictures of the damage to their car, or the house, or whatever the situation was. So I enjoyed it. It was fulfilling for me, and it was everything that I had hoped it would be.
And do you feel like you practiced during a really interesting time?
Yes.
I mean, right through the 60s and through the 70s, and the world kind of turned upside down.
That's right.
Did that affect your practice or how you were viewed in any way, do you
Well,
think?
it probably helped me because the women's movement became very active then, and of course we had the Peace Corps and all those other things, and that helped, I think. Because then I think more women became interested in going to law school. Because after that, there were many women going to law school.
Right.
And at the time, you had to have practiced 10 years before you could be considered to be a judge, to be appointed to the bench. And there weren't that many people, there weren't that many women
Right.
Who had practiced law for 10 years. But after I came on, that was in 81, then there were a lot of people coming out of law schools.
Because, let's see, when I guess I graduated from law school in 1976, and you'd already been practicing for 16,
That's right.
17 years
That's
at that
right.
point.
That's
I mean,
right.
that's a pretty substantial career under your belt.
That's right. I was practicing since 1958.
So you get named to the bench. Did your mom and dad get to see you sworn in?
Oh, yes. My father swore me in, as a matter of fact.
did he
Yes,
really?
Yes.
Oh,
swore
he
me
must
in.
have been so
He
proud.
He was very proud, yeah. He swore me in. My parents were there.
Up in Bill O'Neill's office?
No, we did the swearing in down in Milford.
Oh, in Milford?
Yes.
Your
yeah.
family had moved to Milford
Yes,
by
we
now?
moved to Milford by that time, yeah, because my father had retired from the practice of law. And so we had the swearing in down in Milford.
Oh, that just must
So he
have
swore
been
me in.
wonderful
Yep,
for him.
It was, yeah. I have a nice picture of that.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, I bet that
Yeah,
would be priceless.
yeah,
That
yeah.
would be wonderful.
Yeah.
And so one day you're sworn in, and the next day you report for duty, right?
Exactly. Today they have 3 or 4 weeks of judge school, but I was given some books and my I had my own briefcase, of course, and I rode down to Stanford. They put me into
Where'd
the
you get a
GA.
robe?
I don't remember where the heck I got a robe from now. Unless I borrowed one of Joanne's until mine was ready for me. I may have borrowed one of hers. She probably had an extra one.
So Stanford was your first
Stanford
assignment?
was my first assignment with Judge Nigro, and I'm sure it was like a mill around his neck because he was doing the GA and had this woman sitting in chambers with him all the time. But he was very pleasant to me. He was very good at the criminal, and he knew all those cases backwards and forwards. He's an excellent trial judge. And so he had me come out onto the bench with him, with my robe on. And as I say, the first time I went out on the bench with him, I heard someone in the audience say, "Oh, the judge brought his wife with him." And I guess you piped up with them, they're dressed alike. So that was an interesting career.
I love that story. That somebody could have thought that you were his
wife.
His
right.
wife.
That's right.
Two people standing there in
Yeah,
robes.
In robes. And, oh, the judge brought his wife with him. Oh, I thought, oh my gosh, this is what I've ended up at. But it was a good breaking in for me. And as I say, at that point, my other partner, George Yudkin, had been a prosecutor, so we could not practice in the criminal courts. And he'd been a prosecutor for about 10 years. So I was extremely rusty when it came to the criminal law and all of the different charges and crimes and so forth. So every night what I would do is I would take the docket sheets, which I usually prepared in advance. I would take it home with me. And at night I would sit down and I'd go through all the cases for the next day and go through the statutes and see what the people were charged with. And I'd write down the notes on my cheat sheet, I guess you'd call it. So I would know when the person stepped up and they were charged with 54A, 52, or whatever it was, that it was a breach of the peace or it was a misdemeanor or what it was. So that's how I learned the criminal code, was by doing that.
Right, and those, you did the nuns proud.
That's right.
I think that's so conscientious of you.
Well, how else was I going to learn it,
Right, well, it was an area that you
That's
hadn't
right.
really done.
Had done very little expertise in that. And of course, then the following year, at that time, they didn't have judges' school, as I said before, but they did send judges out to the National Judicial College in Reno, Nevada. So I was very fortunate to go out there for 2 weeks. But of course, there it was a general things that they told you about, general procedures. But it was very helpful, very helpful. And it was helpful talking with other judges to see what problems they had and meeting them and seeing what they were doing and what they weren't doing. So I did have that under my belt after a year.
Did you encounter in those your early days of being a judge, do you feel like you encountered any difficulties or challenges being female? Aside from being taken as Marty Negro's wife.
No, I don't think so. The judges were very cordial to me, the ones that were on the bench already. And the lawyers were very respectful. I think they were more respectful of judges then than they are today.
Probably. I think it was, it was people were more professional than they are now. It was less of a business, and I think, I think just like being at UVA, it was a more gentlemanly.
That's right. That's true.
Atmosphere too than probably some of us encountered in the post-60s.
But I didn't find any harassment or any, oh, you're a woman, you can't do this or that, the other thing. I really didn't find that when I became a lawyer or when I sat on the bench. Today I know they have a lot of that, but I was okay. I don't know.
Yeah, well,
maybe it was there. Maybe I didn't know it. Maybe I was too stupid to realize that they were making fun of me. I don't know.
I don't think so.
But I had no problems. I mean, I went in, work, and did my job, heard the cases, wrote my decisions, and that was it.
And so your first assignment was on criminal.
Yes.
In Stanford.
Right.
Did you sit criminal for a while? Or did
yes,
you move
I
on
did.
to something else?
No, I sat criminal for a while. I think from Stanford I went to Norwalk, and then from Norwalk, as doing criminal, doing the GA. So I must have done that for at least a year, because by the time I got through, I understood the criminal code.
Judges were rotating every 6 months back then, right?
Yes, every 6 months they were rotating. And then after Norwalk, I went up to Bridgeport. I was made PJ of the family. So I was there for 6 months, or maybe a year, I'm not sure now. And then I sat in Meriden, West Haven, Derby, and Milford. So I sat.
Oh, I met you in New Haven.
In New Haven, yeah, I was in New Haven. I've been in New Haven 2 or 3 times now.
I met you in the GA
yeah,
in New Haven.
Yes, I was in the GA in New Haven.
Back in the beginning, because
Yeah.
I remember very well.
Yeah.
I hadn't known you before, and I remember coming in front of you and just thinking you were terrific.
Oh, well, thank you.
Well, you were so even and so nice to everybody. It was very nice. It was very nice, which was always nice in the GA.
Right, that's right. Well, then the GA is when I got attacked there one time in New Haven, as a matter of fact. Yeah.
What happened?
I was sitting on the bench and doing in the arraignment court, and this fellow had appeared before me. This gentleman, he wanted to go to St. Elizabeth's, Now, St. Elizabeth's is the hospital for the criminally insane down in Washington, D.C., which is right near my college. So I knew of the school. And I said to him, well, I said, that's down in Washington. We'll have to see about getting you down there. But you just sit down and we'll see what we can do. Oh, he hadn't wanted to go down to St. Elizabeth's there. So they sat him over in the corner. It was over on your right there. And the next thing I knew, this fellow was coming up to me, and he's grabbing me by the neck. You know, and he had a comb in his hand, and it's a good thing it wasn't a knife or a gun. I wouldn't be here today.
Oh, my gosh.
And so the sheriffs, of course, as he grabbed me, the sheriffs grabbed him, and then a sheriff came behind me and grabbed me out of my bench, so to speak, and pulled me into my chambers. So that was an experience that I'd had in New Haven.
Were you terrified?
I was panicked. I mean, you know, here's this big guy coming at me, you know, with a comb in his hand. I didn't know what he had in his hand at the time.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
Did you take the rest of the day off?
No, I came back out. I came back out.
I knew you did. I knew it. I knew that was going to be the answer.
And Judge Vercass called me up and he said, do you want to take off for a while? I said, why? I said to him, you wanted to give me a week's vacation? And he laughed. He said, no. But no, I calmed myself and I went back out there. I wasn't going to let that deter me from not doing anything. And of course, since then, I mean, didn't Judge Riley come down from the bench and hang on to some defendant?
He did. He tackled some defendant. And I think Judge O'Keefe tackled a defendant.
Right.
But none of them were tackled by the defendants.
Oh, that was my experience in the GA.
And so when was the first time you saw family was in Bridgeport?
I think it was in Bridgeport. I believe it was in Bridgeport.
Do you remember your first impressions of sitting family as a judge as opposed to having done family as a lawyer?
It was different being on the other side of the bench, let me tell you. It was quite different, very different. And of course, in Bridgeport, they have quite a cast of characters there. And it was a very colorful group that they had in Bridgeport. But, you know, I just took my time and listened to everybody and did the best thing I could. I took the papers on a lot of cases if I wasn't sure about it. In those times, I took a lot of papers, but I learned afterwards, you know, not to take so many papers, because then you had to write the decisions.
That's right. Better to rule from the bench.
That's right.
Well, we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about your long and very distinguished career doing family.
All right, fine.
We're back from our break, and before we get into what I promised, which is your illustrious career in the family court, we were talking during the break about your appearance at the Supreme Court.
Yes, in Connecticut.
With Mr. Yudkin, right?
Yes, that's right.
So maybe you could share that, because that's a good story.
Well, of course, I hadn't been practicing law that long, but we did have a case that went up to the Supreme Court of Connecticut. It was a zoning case. And Harold made the first presentation of the argument, and then I believe the other side got up and did their argument. And then I stood up to give the second argument. I remember this Chief Justice, or one of the justices, looked down at me and he said, "Young lady, are you going to repeat or rebut?" And I turned to Harold and I said, "I think I'm going to faint." And of course Harold said, "Keep going."
And you did.
So I did. I did. So that was my one experience. That was one of the experiences that I had in the Supreme Court.
Some of those, you know, I don't know that any of us look as on the bench today look as fierce as some of those people did.
Well, some of them did. They were very fierce looking, as I recall.
Yeah, they always looked like they were angry and about to take your head off, even when they were trying to be nice.
That's right.
Well, you were a very different kind of judge, and you spent a lot of years sitting on family.
I did end up doing a lot of family. In my earlier career, though, I did the GA in several places. I did civil jury. I did criminal jury. I did courtside. I did courtside in Stanford, which I thought was very tough. I thought that was one of my toughest assignments, doing courtside.
What was tough about it?
Well, it's tough because you have to, you hear the case, you make all the rulings, you have to read the briefs, and then you have to make that decision. And you have to write a decision, and you have to write the decision that makes some sense and has got some basis to the evidence that was presented before you. So I always thought that courtside was a very difficult assignment because of all the writing that's involved, a lot of writing. And of course, coming from the GA where you have very little writing and then doing court, it was difficult. But then after that, I started to do some family in New Haven once or twice, Bridgeport, and I liked family. I really enjoyed it.
What was it about family that you liked?
I felt very comfortable doing family. I knew a lot of the lawyers, and I was comfortable with the lawyers, and they always had something interesting, you know, in the family law, some new wrinkle that they would come up with, and I thought that was rather challenging of them. So, and I liked being able to help people and being patient and taking my time with the cases. So I ended up doing quite a bit of family.
It's interesting because many people have done some family, and many people cringe, judges cringe at the idea of ever sitting on family. But even those who've done a fair amount of it really take their hats off to people who have done a tremendous amount of it, like you have. Right. Why do you think you were able to do that when other people
I don't know. I never understood why they didn't like family. I mean, the law is fairly reasonable. It's simple to understand. You don't have to worry about some statute that you have to look at and it makes some sense. And it's interesting, and it's interesting that the jams that people get themselves into in their marital problems.
Well, that's interesting you say that. You don't see them as these angry people arguing about pots and pans, do you?
Well, I always told them, when it came to pots and pans, I said, listen, my father didn't send me to law school to divide pots and pans. You have to do that on yourself, on your own. So I didn't really want to get involved with that. Or as Judge O'Sullivan used to do, he used to have them make a list, and then each person would take from their list. One would go once, the other person would go the other way, and they'd take from their list until everything was divided up, Or else the other threat was to have a giant tag sale.
Give them the proceeds.
Sell everything, you can divide the money. And that got people to divide their things. But I don't know why men have such a problem with, not men, even some women don't like to sit on family. I don't know why.
Well, you don't really see these people as bickering, angry people, do you?
No, I don't. No, I see them as human beings who've got some problems. You've got to resolve their problems, be fair and equitable with them, and let them go on their own way and continue with their life. That's how I look at it.
Well, it's very interesting because having been a lawyer who has appeared in front of you when you've been sitting on family, and having had clients who, were the subjects of your orders, you treat everybody in that courtroom with an amazing amount of patience and dignity.
Oh, well, thank you. I tried to do that.
And they never used to come in and say, they'd sigh a sigh of relief, when you came in saying, oh, that's good, she'll be fair.
Yeah, well, that's nice. Thank you. Nice to hear that.
Do you think do you think that some of that is attributable to the practice you had and what you learned about people in that small town practice?
Well, absolutely, I think so, because you were dealing with human beings in my small practice, and you were talking with them. You're talking to their relatives, their witnesses. Whereas I said before, some of my colleagues, they never saw a client, never even talked with one, and just were sitting in the office doing research all the time. Where I was out there in the fields, I was in the trenches, so to speak, dealing with them, going to their homes and looking at the walls that broken down and where the water came through or the damage and so forth, so that I was used to dealing with people and listening to them. You had to listen. And taking notes and so forth of what they were telling you. So I think that was a good preparation for me to sit on family.
Yeah.
And have good common sense too when you're dealing with people.
And you have to like people.
That's right. You have to like people, and I do like people. Yeah. I do enjoy people.
Yeah. Well, that comes through when you talk about your practice and clearly. Do any cases, any family cases stick out in your mind?
No, not really. No, I couldn't really.
They all
merge one into the other. Even the names even merge one into the other. I mean, I suppose if I thought about it long and hard, I'd come up with some funny ones, but I can't think of any offhand.
No, you never.
I did. Well, I must say, I did Michael Bolton's divorce.
Oh, you did?
Yes, I was.
Did he still have long hair?
Yes, he had long hair with a black suit.
Oh, it's funny.
That was in Stanford. You got all the big
It's funny who, the people, Martha Stewart, I did Martha Stewart.
Did you? Oh, okay. All right, down in Stanford, right?
No, that was actually in Bridgeport, because she was living in, I don't know, they filed in Bridgeport for some reason.
From Weston there.
But it's funny because in the family court, it really doesn't make any difference.
No.
Eventually, if you come through there, you're just
going
to get your stuff divided, and that's
you're
that.
You're a plaintiff or defendant, whatever.
And has that been rewarding? What types of assignments were the most rewarding for you? Am I wrong to assume it was the family?
Well, family really was very rewarding. Some of the GA cases were rewarding, where you gave somebody a suspended sentence or you put them on probation, then they had to come back and they did well, and they went on and were able to make something of themselves, and then they would send you a letter thanking you for what you had done for them.
Didn't you tell me about one of the lawyers who sent you message every year.
Yes, that's right. I forgot about that. Rick Albrecht in Bridgeport. I had a family case down in Bridgeport, and it was a custody situation where I think it was the father was going to end up with custody, which was very unusual at that time. And the father did get custody for whatever reason. And every year, the father would send him a picture of his son and he together, and to show, that, in other words, that they were getting along well and that the right decision had been made as far as the husband was concerned and as far as the son was concerned. So that was kind of nice.
And
to
Rick would
do
share that with
Oh,
you.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, it's kind of nice,
Yeah.
especially in those cases affecting
right.
kids.
That's right, with children.
Yeah.
It's
'Cause
nice to know
sometimes-
you did the right thing.
Did you find that you took your work home with you? That you would? Did you ever wake up in the middle of the night wondering what you were going to do with a tough case?
Oh, absolutely. And sometimes I'd go through and listen to the arguments all over again in my sleep at night. I did, when I was on Family, I did all my writing at night. I also did a lot of writing at night. So I was always thinking about my cases at night.
Because
well, not
when-
every night, because I was busy. I was raising my 2 nieces at the time, so I did have another life besides being on the bench.
How old are your nieces now?
They're 40 and 41.
And now you're helping raise your
That's right,
grandchildren,
my
right?
grandniece. That's right, Jessie, 5 and a half. Get that in for posterity.
Hi, Jesse. Right? Did you feel doing family cases? I think it's got to be different than doing civil cases. That responsibility and the burden of the decision.
Right, it is a responsibility because it's not just awarding somebody money like in a civil case, you know. But it is a responsibility to be fair and equitable and to try and sift through who's telling the truth, who's telling lies, who's not being particularly candid. And it is there are some difficult decisions that you have to make when you're dividing up property. You know, you're taking somebody's life in your hand, so to speak, and you're putting them on the path to whatever. And you want to put them on the right path, and you don't want them to go down and say, oh, I lost everything, and they become very desperate and despair. So you try to be fair and try to do the best you can. It is a responsibility, definitely.
It's very different than the practice of
Yeah,
family law.
Of course. And when you're practicing, you want to get everything you can for your client. You don't care about the other side. You just have a client
That's
to
right.
consider.
The
right?
decision making.
That's right.
That was one of the biggest surprises to me. The burden of the
making
decisions.
that decision. That's right.
Yeah, and do you ever think, oh, I made a mistake, or I have to go back and? You're very.
I try not to do that. I mean, I try not to rethink my cases.
Right.
When I made the decision, I looked at the pros and the cons. I weighed everything. I made my decision. That's it. You know, if they take an appeal, they take an appeal. You know, and there were some reversals, I'm sure, and some affirmed. Some cases were affirmed, but I don't go back and say, oh, I should have done something else. I really tried never to do that, to rethink myself.
But just like the kind of student that you were, and I love that image of you going through the statutes when you were first assigned to criminal.
I did,
You're
every
very
night.
deliberate in your thinking and your decisions as well, right? You really take your time and are very deliberate with it, right?
I took my time. I thought it through, and I'd write the decision, and then I'd put it aside for a day, and then I'd pick it up again and go over it again, and I always took copious notes. I'm the only person who uses those blue books to take notes, which if I was hearing cases now, I would still be using them. But no one else uses those blue books, and the lawyers all used to get panicked because that's what they used for the bar exam, those blue books. In my day, anyhow, you had to write the essays in the blue books.
That's right.
And I would put the memorandum of decision aside for a day, then I'd come back and I'd read it again and go over my notes again to be sure that I had covered everything, I hadn't left anything out, and just give yourself a chance to rethink it. In other words, I didn't want to do it off the cuff. You know, when you're on short calendar and you're doing it, sometimes you're doing it off the cuff. Maybe on some short calendar things, I went back and I thought, oh, I shouldn't have done that, or oh, I should have given him more, or given him less, or something like that. But it's done now.
Right.
So it'll be straightened out
It's
at the
too
long
quick.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you had to do fast.
Do you, what qualities do you think make a good judge?
Well, I think a good judge has to be knowledgeable of the law. I think you have to have a sense of right and wrong and a good common sense. And you need some patience. And you have to be tolerant of other people. And you have to understand that you're not going to represent and not going to have before you kings and queens. You have a lot of common people before you, people who don't know any better, and you have people who do know better and are trying to do something about getting away with something. So you just have to be able to see through those things and come up with a decision that's fair and equitable for everybody and that people can live with. And even in the divorce cases, I mean, I never really rewarded anybody because they were such a goody-goody, and I tried not to punish anybody because they were such a bad so-and-so, and just try to be fair and divide it up as best you can.
I remember one of the lawyers saying something about he didn't want the court to be in the business of either vindication or vengeance in the family court.
That's right.
And so much of the time.
Right. That happens sometimes. It happened, years ago when you had to have the 3 witnesses.
Right.
And you had to show physical, all that business. And I think maybe some judges became vindictive. And there are some judges who, if they hear of physical abuse, they can't see anything else but that. They get very upset over that.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that, but it does color what they do.
Right. Do you think that there's anything that you bring to judging, or that any of us brings to, or that you, let's say just you, maybe it's too hard to speak generally, that you brought as a woman to the decision-making process?
Well, I think everybody is different, and everybody brings their own sense of right and wrong and their sense of justice to the table, so to speak. And we're all prima donnas in our own right. We really are. and we're all different. And I don't think it matters whether you're male or female. Everybody is different and has their own preconceptions, preconceived ideas, and they bring that with their knowledge to the bench.
And do you think that part of what we do is to kind of figure out what those preconceptions are?
I suppose.
Where they're going to get in the way.
Hopefully they don't get in the way, that's true.
Have you been active as a judge in any judicial organizations?
Well, I did do some teaching at the judges seminar one year. I did it 2 years, as a matter of fact. And I was a treasurer and treasurer of the Judges Association. I wasn't president, but I was, and I was on the board of directors for the Judges Association. So I've been active in that group.
Did you ever go to any of the National Association of Women Judges
meetings? Yes, that's right. I've forgotten about that. Yeah, I did. Was a member of that. I'm still a member of the National Association of Women Judges. Actually, Judge Kulowitz got me involved in that. And it was really great. It was great for a couple of reasons. First of all, every year they have a convention in a different big city. And by going, you get a chance to see the city.
Right.
And they always were able to have a wonderful program depending on where you were. For example, in Washington, they had a program with the Supreme Court justices. Out in San Francisco, or in California rather, when it was at Los Angeles, they were able to take you through some of the studios there. And not only that, but you met other women judges. And it was interesting exchanging stories with them and seeing what they go through and just exchanging their ideas with you. And many of the women judges, of course, are elected. And that's a very different ballgame, let me tell you, than being appointed. Very different. They have to run for election.
It's hard to conceive of, isn't it?
I could not conceive of running for election.
It almost seems as if the qualities that you'd have to stand for election are now what you know.
I could never do that. Stand for election, they have to campaign, they have to raise funds, and I'm thinking, well, how can you raise funds and then these people who are raising funds for you are going to appear before you? It would have to color your judgment.
Yeah,
it would be very difficult. But anyhow, I enjoyed going to the National Association of Women Judges meetings and organizations.
Did you go last year?
I didn't go last year, no. No, I haven't gone in a few years now. Actually, I like to go to Florida the first week in October, and that's usually when they meet. But I did go to New York, and I went down to Miami Beach when they had it there. I think Joanne went out to Minnesota. I didn't go out with her at that time. And I think we went to California on another occasion.
It's every year. It's a larger and larger organization.
Yes. Oh, yeah. It's growing all the time. Well, because of all the women.
Do you have Did you ever sit down and actually think about whether you have a judicial philosophy?
No, I never sat down and thought if I had a judicial philosophy.
So we should just skip that question.
Skip that question. I just got out there and did my thing.
Well, I think you talked a little bit about it in terms of what a judge needs and that you're trying to do fairness.
Right. And the law and
and
provide the right law. You got to go by what the law says you can do or you can't do. Because sometimes the law is not terribly fair on some things. But you have to go along with what the law says. That's what I'm sworn to uphold. It's the law of the state land.
So how has being on the bench changed over your career?
Well, it's changed quite. I think the technological advances have changed it a lot. I mean, nowadays they have faxing your pleadings. You have electronic filings. I think years ago you'd pick up the telephone and talk with someone. Today they fax them something. I think that's been a change. And of course there are so many lawyers today. I sometimes wonder how they all make a living. and they've all become and as a result of that, I think they become very aggressive, and I think the technology has had a lot to do with that.
Do you think they're having as much fun as you did back in the Valley?
I don't think so. We had a good time in the Valley.
Overall, would you suggest the law as a career to young women?
I think I'd have to think twice about it today. I really do, depending on what the person wanted to do. If you wanted a general practice in a small town, I don't think that there's room for that anymore. Everything seems to be in the big firms. That's where people want to go. That's where they want to make the big dollars. People, when I started out, I was getting $50 a week. You're not going to find many people who want to do that.
No, that's true. Even the general practice now does not
That's right.
pay all
That's
that
right.
well.
That's right.
Well, that's too bad, though, isn't it? Because it seems that it was a great career.
It is a great career. But I think if a woman is interested and really, feels that that's what I want to do, I would encourage her, sure, go for it. Why not? Go for it. You have nothing to lose. It's a wonderful background. Even if you don't like it after you're out there, you can always do something else. You can always do whatever you want to do, because the law is a good background for you.
Do you think that, we talk about whether or not your career has been influenced by you as a woman. Did your career actually influence, the other way around, did your career, being a lawyer, change you personally in any way?
I don't think I changed personally. I became I make decisions a lot faster than I ordinarily would have liked to make, but I don't think so. I'm the same person I was, I hope. Hope I haven't changed. Maybe I've changed for the better. I don't know.
Well, I don't know. I didn't know you back in Derby, but you haven't changed. I'm a big fan of yours.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
I'm a really big fan. You
I
always
hope I haven't changed. I always liked a good time. Liked a little humor in my life. Try to be a little humorous on the bench sometimes, but I have to be careful not to become like Judge Judy.
Did you ever sit with Judge Friedman, with Fred Friedman?
No, I don't think. I'm not sure if I ever sat with him.
Because he sat with family a lot. And he also was always looking for a good sense of humor.
Right.
Maybe that's from seeing all those people and their foibles. I don't know.
That could be. I don't know.
Is there anything else you want to talk about?
No, I think
for posterity. Now that this is your big opportunity.
Well, I'm not Judge Judy.
Thank goodness.
People always ask me that, But no, I think that we've covered everything that we were going to cover.
Well, this has been an absolute pleasure.
Well, thank you very much. It's
Absolute
been a pleasure for me
spending
too.
this time with you.
Yeah, I enjoy spending time with you, Elaine.
Well, that completes our interview today. I hope that those of you viewing this in the future will enjoy listening to Judge Coppeto as much as I've enjoyed listening this
Thank you very
afternoon.
much. I enjoyed it.
Bye. Thank you.